David Bowie is remembered as a shapeshifter, Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White Duke, an icon of reinvention, but there was one chapter in his life that often was overlooked, his time in Switzerland. For Bowie, Switzerland wasn't just a place on a map, it was an escape, a sanctuary, and a backdrop for some of the most personal and profound moments of his life. Let's dive deeper into his time here in Switzerland and what it really meant for his persona. And of course, if you get anything from this, would you consider subscribing? The story begins in mid-1970s. Bowie had lived through the whirlwind of fame, the chaos of Berlin, and the excess of Los Angeles. By 1976, exhausted and searching for stability, he moved to a chalet not too far from here. He wanted privacy, he wanted peace, and if we're being honest, the famously discreet Swiss tax system probably didn't hurt either. But more than that, Switzerland offered him a chance to be anonymous. Here he could walk along Lake Geneva or slip into a cafe without the constant flashes of cameras. The man who once performed as an alien rock star found comfort in a place that asked nothing of him. A country that's very good at minding its own business. Montreux quickly became Bowie's spiritual home in Switzerland. It wasn't just a sleepy lakeside town, it was a birthplace of the Montreux Jazz Festival, founded by Claude Nobs. Bowie became close to Claude, and through that friendship, Montreux became a stage and a retreat rolled into one. Bowie performed at the Jazz Festival, and in 1995 he even designed the official poster. Think about that for a second. One of the most recognizable faces in music history, lending his art just as a favor to a friend. That was Bowie in Switzerland, stripped of the superstar ego, surrounded by creativity, but in a low-key way. And let's not forget, it was in Montreux where Bowie recorded part of Lodger and worked with other artists. The mountains and the calm of the lake weren't just scenery, they were fuel for his creativity. By the early 1980s, Bowie had put down deeper roots. In 1982, he bought a place out here. Imagine the world's most flamboyant rock star retreating into a Swiss chalet. From Ziggy Stardust to the quiet slopes of Vaud, it was surreal, and yet it suited him. This was where Bowie lived a more domestic life. He raised his son, he wrote, and he painted as well. The Switzerland years were less about reinvention on stage and more about stability off of it. In fact, in 1992, Bowie married Iman right there in Lausanne. Not in London, not in New York, but here in Switzerland. And that's when they retreated to Lake Como, and you can find that video over on the channel. But the thing is, that choice spoke volumes. Switzerland was where Bowie felt safe enough to share one of his most personal moments. What's fascinating about Bowie's time in Switzerland is the contrast. Public Bowie was still the intentional superstar, recording albums, touring, breaking boundaries, but private Bowie, Swiss Bowie, was reflective, grounded, and perhaps even more ordinary. Neighbours of his in Switzerland described him as polite, quiet, and approachable. He would stop at local shops, he would buy bread, walk without bodyguards. For a man who once sang about being under pressure, Switzerland gave him exactly what he needed: space to breathe. Now, Zurich itself doesn't appear as often in Bowie's biography. He performed here, yes, but he didn't live here in the way that he did in Montreux or Lausanne. Still, as I walk these streets, I can imagine Bowie appreciating the same things he found elsewhere in Switzerland: discretion, order, beauty hidden in plain sight. Zurich is a city where people respect boundaries, and that in the end was the greatest gift Switzerland gave Bowie. It let him be himself without the performance. It let him balance the extraordinary with the ordinary. David Bowie in Switzerland was not Ziggy, not the Thin White Duke, not the showman in glitter and makeup. He was simply David. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. Even icons need a place to take off the mask, to be human, to find peace. Behind the stardust, there was a man who found solace in Swiss mountains, in a chateau in Lake Geneva, in the quiet streets of Lausanne. David Bowie, the man who fell to earth. He found a home, and it was right here in Switzerland.
I didn't strive for success. I strived to do something artistically important. And success over here, I believe, is very much in the kind of material world. So can I just say that before we start? I wanted to do something artistically valid.